Yeah, for me, I would view the Guardians as a candidate to be maybe a top five system in the game. Their top 10 is littered with hitters that you can have a lot of confidence in, I think, relative to like a typical prospect status. They collect hit tool players, like players who control the zone, players who make a lot of contact. So nine of their top 10 are hitters. A large percentage of these players are players who are either proven at the minor leagues at various, like, I'd say solid levels, or players you'd expect to move quickly. And I think between Travis Bazzana and Jaison Chourio at the very top, you got a couple of guys who you could make a case for them being top 30, top 25 types. It was very difficult for me to settle on who I wanted to be number one in this system. I'll say that.
I was going to ask that, was Travis Bazzana the clear number one prospect in the system? How close was it between him and Chourio?
It was very close. I think that you could say that Chourio maybe has more upside than Bazzana, just given the body, given his secondary tools. But I think Bazzana is a more complete and advanced hitter right now, who has maybe a more advanced approach currently compared to Chourio. He's got more power that he can tap into consistently in game. But with Bazzana, I mean, his biggest weak point in his profile is like you're hoping that maybe he's going to be an average defender at second base. I think Chourio
Hmm.
could be an above average or plus defender in center field. Both these guys have a chance for really double plus hit tools, I think, with the amount of contact they make, their zone recognition. So it was really tight. I think if you want to like really dream on a player, you could easily make a case for Chourio, but Travis Bazzana feels like the safer option. And as the 1-1 pick that the Guardians just took, I think he certainly has the tool set and the upside. Like, I think both these guys have all-star upside. So I don't think you can go wrong. I would assume most people with Cleveland have Bazzana in that one spot. But there are certainly some people within the org and outside of the org. And maybe it's a case where I talked to a lot of people outside the org who just hadn't seen Bazzana yet, and like Chourio at the top of this list. But it's a very competitive and fun 1-1 debate. I'm curious if you lean one direction or another.
Yeah, I would still have Bazzana ahead. I think there's just more impact in
Mhm.
his overall offensive game. But I love Jason Chourio. I mean, he was a big prospect coming out of Venezuela a few years ago, got $1.2 million. He's athletic like his brother. He's a plus runner, but otherwise it's a very different profile than Jackson.
Yes. I
Jackson
think
has
that's
a
good to like reinforce that they are different profiles. They have different physicality. They have different power upside. Like you're projecting Jason to get to solid average or maybe slightly above average power. You're never going to get like the double plus raw that Jackson has. I don't think he's that sort
yeah,
of player.
I would say projecting or hoping maybe, but like I think Jackson has a ton of bat speed and an
Hmm.
aggressive approach that works for him,
Yep.
and obviously he looks like a young star in the making. Whereas with Jason Chourio, you're getting a hitter with better plate discipline,
Hmm.
better contact skills, switch hitter in his case, right, as opposed to Chourio or excuse me, Jackson Chourio being right.
Yep.
What he doesn't have is Jackson's ability to damage the ball, right? He slugs
Hmm.
just 398 this year, 5 home runs in 98 games. That said, I think there's untapped power potential in there, not just
Hmm.
from the natural strength progression that we'll
Yep.
typically see from a teenager who's going to bulk up, but also if he's able to make an adjustment with his swing
Hmm.
to drive the ball with more consistent loft, because he's running a 49% ground ball rate, which is an improvement from where it was in 2023, but it's still a swing. I think in an approach that's geared more
Hmm.
for lower trajectory type hits than getting
Yeah.
lift. But when he does hit the ball, exit velocities are up to 111 miles an hour. I think there's room to project more strength gains still. So
Hmm.
there's another level of power that I think he could still unlock, which is what would make him really exciting because he is a patient hitter. He
Yep.
manipulates the barrel well. He drew more walks than he had strikeouts this season. He uses the whole field. He can play a premium position in center field. So yeah, I mean, if everything clicks, I think you're kind of your classic top of the order leadoff type hitter who has a high OBP
Hmm.
and can play a premium position.
Yeah, his understanding of the strike zone, his barrel skills, his contact ability, all just kind of jumped out to me based on the data, based on the feedback you get from scouts. There's just a lot of confidence that he's going to be able to hit at a high level. And I think the power that he's shown and the swing that he's shown so far is not it's not an issue that I have. It's not like a huge concern. I think this is maybe just sort of the natural development as a hitter. I think it's great that he has these foundational contact skills and batting eye skills, and Cleveland is already working with him to maybe adjust his contact point a little bit, and stop getting so ground ball heavy and to just naturally get a little bit stronger, and take advantage of that. So I think that's going to come. Whether or not he gets to like solid average or above average power will maybe determine the ultimate upside. Like if he's able to add that power rapidly next year, I think he moves into like you're talking about one of the elite prospects in the game, because I have above average tools across the board for him outside of power at a pretty premium position. And I think just the hitting ability he's shown at his age is a separator. So I'm pretty excited about him.
What about Chase DeLauter at number 4? Are you down on him? Is it just the injuries? Is it just the players ahead of him are also pretty good too? What made you put him there as opposed to maybe a little bit higher up the board?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Chase DeLauter, if he did not have his injuries, his injury history, you could easily put him at the very top of this org over a guy like Bazzana, because when he's on the field, he has an exceptional combination of contact ability and power. I mean, his raw power gives him a chance to hit 35 home runs if he's able to stay on the field. It's really maybe an outlier sort of tool for the Guardians specifically, who have a lot more contact oriented players. It's just, he has constantly been injured. He's not been on the field a ton. In terms of pure upside, I think DeLauter might be the guy that you could easily get the most excited about, but I think it really is just the injuries with him. I mean, some people don't like how the swing looks, but in terms of the results he gets, it's pretty excellent. It is an odd looking swing. It's kind of this shorter, compact, really steep swing with this short cutoff finish. But I mean, he has made a ton of contact going back to his college days. That's continued on in pro ball. He's extremely physical. He's got a lot of natural strength. The exit velocities are impressive. He can still run fairly well when he is like giving a high effort run. He's dealt with multiple foot injuries that have held him back. So I think he could play all 3 outfield positions. Probably fits better in a corner, but just those health concerns and the profile, I think with both Bazzana and Chourio, you're talking about up the middle types who just don't have those sort of injury questions.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of sucks that he keeps getting hurt, but then you look at the games played each year, 57 games. His first year out, 39 games. This year, you hope he's not an injury-prone play, and then he got hurt too. His college, this draft year in college too, right?
Yep.
So
I mean, him getting hurt is probably the only reason he slid to 16 for the Guardians to pick him. He easily could have been a top 10, top 5 pick going into that draft.
Yeah. So you hope he's not injury-prone, but certainly it's starting to.
It feels like you could call him that pretty safely.
Yeah, it's certainly starting to add up at this point. But then, like you said, when he is healthy, when he's on the field, it's very low swing and miss from a big dude who has pretty big power too. So like there's a lot to I don't see him as a center fielder long term. Like I think he's really gonna have to play a corner only in the big leagues, unless it's we need somebody for a game here or there, or just a certain situation. But given
the other options that Cleveland has, I don't think your ideal lineup would be running him out in center field. But just looking at like the zone miss that he had this year, it was like 7.8% zone miss rate. It was a 13% overall miss rate. These are some of the best just contact rates you'll see of this entire division from a guy who, again, has like 30 plus home run potential. It's just a really exciting hit power combo from a guy who has done it in the upper levels of the minors as well. It's not like a huge track record, but there's not been a period where he's gone out and scuffled offensively to make you wonder.
Yeah, no, hopefully he just stays on the field because he's super talented. What about, I want to ask you about Cooper Engel in this system. Yeah. Is he, I'm very intrigued by him. Is he going to catch? I mean, I know when he was at Clemson, he would catch, he would play some outfield. There were some questions about whether he's going to catch long-term going into the draft. What are you hearing on him?
Really positive reviews on Cooper Ingle across the board. I mean, we can talk about his catching specifically, but I think what makes him most compelling as a prospect is just really advanced pure hitting ability, a short line drive
No doubt.
swing with a
Yeah.
ton of contact. But defensively, yeah, I mean, we had him on the Hot Sheet show, and it was really cool to hear him talk about his defensive progress and how he viewed himself as a defender and the things that he's done. He's working from a one knee setup, and it sounds like he really likes the positions that he's able to work from in that setup. It's like a lot more comfortable than maybe you would expect if you haven't done that. But he does everything well enough to stick behind catcher, really outside of just the pure arm strength. He dealt with an arm injury back in college. I think that's part of the reason why he was playing some outfield. I think even now that he's healthy and throwing, it's fringy at best in terms of pure arm strength, but he's made it work. He threw out a decent amount of runners in 24 because he has a quick exchange. He's been relatively accurate, but the arm and power are not impactful tools for him. So he's going to have to hit. He's going to have to continue doing what he's done defensively now. I don't think you're looking at the sort of impact above average regular. I think he could be a solid regular for them, just given the hitting ability and his just receiving and the way he's able to work with pitchers and block. Like I think all of those are solid. It's really just a question of impact and a question of how is the arm going to hold up moving forward at the pro level. But so far it's worked.
Yeah, only one pass ball in 74 games as a catcher this year. If you think he can catch, I'm in on Cooper Ingle. The six guys that you have ahead of him are pretty good prospects, so I can see why you think this is a top 5 type farm system in baseball. But there are some
because even after him, there are players like CJ Kafis has really good contact skills. Juan Brito is near big league ready. There are players at 10, 11 that I have, Joey Cantillo and Andrew Walters. Like they're going to be making an impact on the major league team at the beginning of 2025. One in the rotation, one in the bullpen. I just think it's a really deep, really strong system. And depending on how high you are on their top 2, I think the top of this list gets a little more flack than it probably deserves. Like I think Bazzana and Jaison Chourio really. I think people don't like when I'm talking about, at least with other people at BA. It's like, yeah, the depth is really good, but they don't have kind of the top end that other orgs do. And I'm like, it's not that far away from some of these other top end systems. I mean, they don't have a player that we have right now inside the top 10, but that's a pretty high bar to clear. I think not every org is going to have that.
Yeah, well, the Red Sox are hogging them all. So no, but I think there's other catching prospects who are probably more famous than Cooper Angle, like a Thyron Lorenzo. I'd say Harry Ford with the Mariners too, where I think I might take Cooper Angle ahead of them, or that you can at least make a case for him. I mean, between high A and double A this year, he hit 305, 419, 478, more walks than strikeouts, 11 home runs in 93 games. It's some of the best barrel accuracy in the minor leagues. He tracks spin extremely well. The swing is adjustable. So, if you're throwing him a fastball, breaking ball, he's going to make contact at a pretty high clip. It's definitely hit over power, like you were saying. So I wouldn't expect huge home runs from him. But I think you have the ingredients for a high OBP catcher with Cooper Ingle.
Yep, that's a good call too. At the last point too, we hadn't talked about it a ton, but he's got a really good eye for the zone. He's not expanding too much, so while he doesn't have a lot of power, and I wouldn't expect him to add too much, just given the frame, there's not a lot of projecting you can do there. I think he'll hit for high average. I think he'll get on base a lot, and when you're playing catcher and you're doing that well, it's a pretty good package there.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, I'm trying
a
to
sexy profile, but it's a solid one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. What is Harry Ford with the Mariners? What does he do better than Cooper Ingle? Like, I think Ingle is a better hitter. He's a better bat control, less swing and miss. They're both patient hitters. They both draw a lot of walks. That might actually be Harry Ford's best selling point offensively, at least, is that he does walk a lot, but Cooper Ingle does too. You could give Ford a slight edge there if you want. Power.
I mean, Ford is a better athlete, and I'm assuming he has a better arm. I don't know what our grades are on his arm strength at this point. Those would probably be the two.
Yeah, I would give. I mean, yes, Ford is a better athlete, definitely. That's one of the standout traits for him. I think the power is maybe comparable, but I'd probably give Ford the edge at least a slight edge there. I wouldn't look just at the surface level numbers with Ford because he played in Arkansas, which is a huge pitcher's park. He is a year younger.
Mm-hmm.
And then he is athletic, but I mean, defensively, is he going to catch, right? Like maybe the defense with Ford did get better this year, but
Cooper Ingle, you get a left-handed hitter as well.
right. I mean,
I don't know how much that matters.
still to be determined where Harry Ford plays long term. So anyway, like if you want to take Harry Ford, I think that's fine. It might even probably is the majority consensus opinion on him, but if my point is, if we have Harry Ford as a top 100 prospect, and we can debate that, but I think it's at least closer than people realize, and I think Cooper Ingle always belongs in that conversation among the better catching prospects in baseball.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess one of the questions we had of him coming out of the draft would have been the power, and it would have been just the defense. I think Cleveland has done a really good job in coaching up some of their catchers. Like Bo Naylor has turned into a really good receiver. Again, a lot of positive feedback on the development that Ingle has had so far. So they seem to do a good job there, and clearly they're selecting for advanced hit tools, and he has that. But yeah, it's a good system.